Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for our October virtual workshop. And our October virtual workshop is the second workshop in our 10 workshop virtual series on neurodiversity and your child, the signs, the gifts, and the resources. And tonight's workshop is going to be about the signs of neurodiversity. It will be the signs of neurodiversity. So I am sorry that it is taking so long for my background to load, but I think I will just come on this way. And I apologize, I'm not sure what's happening with my camera right now, but we will get started. And as long as you can see the slides, that is the most important part. But tonight we're going into part 2 of neurodiversity, which is understanding the signs. So how do you know if your child has neurodiversity? How do you know if there is something that needs to be done? It is very important to know these things because you don't want to ignore an issue that your child is struggling with, but you also don't want to think they have autism when they have ADHD. You don't want to think that your child is, facing just a learning disability or just, learning how to do things slowly, but they're actually have a neurodiverse condition. So it's important to be able to know the signs, and welcome to everyone who is here. Yes, social challenges is one of the signs. And if you haven't, please RSVP, because that will, Kaya, that is a great sign. The RSVP will be what we use to draw names for the virtual gift card. If you haven't, in the chat, type your child or children's school or NIDC site. Also type your city, state, or country if you're joining from outside of New York City. And so we are going to go just a quick reminder of what is neurodiversity, and then we're going to go over some signs of a few neurodiverse conditions. Not every condition, because we would be here a while, but some of the main conditions of neurodiversity. And then we're going to go into a group coaching activity where one of you will share something that relates to neurodiversity in your child or a child you work with, and you'll get help from others on the call. Please put your comments and your questions in the chat. Come on camera if you can, and you can use the raise hand feature or just come off of mute to ask questions or ask them in the chat. If you have any technical difficulties, Elisa, who is a co-host from NIDC, she can help you with that. We'll give out some resources and have some Q&A, and I'll share a little bit more about the year-long cohort program, and thank you to all of those who signed up for it. And we'll do some closing out and, of course, our raffle. And if you are joining us for the first time, we want to say welcome to NIDC's Family Support Network monthly virtual workshop. We really do appreciate you joining us and being here with us. The Family Support Network comes out of the 43 years of work that NIDC has done in the Northeast Bronx, and now spreading out to other parts of the Bronx and Brooklyn. And we work on housing. We also work on issues related to community engagement. And we run after school and day camp programs at various schools in the Bronx. And we also launched the Family Support Network in 2003 to be a space where parents and child caregivers and anyone who is concerned about children would be able to come and be able to meet other parents, meet other child caregivers, and learn how to be your best self and how to be your healthiest so that you can raise healthy and thriving children. And to date, we've had hundreds of workshops in person and online. We've also served over 1,000 parents. Please stay tuned. After the workshop tomorrow or later tonight, you will receive a follow-up email. And you will also receive a monthly Family Support Network newsletter, which is a newsletter that gives you different resources that you can access. And so we want to make sure to let you know about that as well. Thank you. And I am sorry, I've never had this issue with my camera, but now I can share the PowerPoint again. If you want to know more about NIDC or any of our services, we do have a housing department and we do a great deal, and you can go on our website and I'll give you that information at the end. Also, Elisa will be giving information in the chat. And once you register, you are in the loop. And so Elisa Colon is one of our after-school program staff, but she's also one of our virtual workshop moderators. And thank you, Elisa, for being here with us. Workshop moderators drop important announcements and links in the chat. They also can answer questions or concerns you have. And they may take private or public chat messages if you're experiencing technical issues during the workshop. If you can still see me and the slides, let me know by putting a 1 in the chat. Thank you. And so just to give a refresher, and we won't do this every workshop because we want to build each and every time we have a workshop, but just so you know, neurodiversity is a natural variation in human brains or differences in how people think. And it can include autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and more. But it's not a deficit, but a difference and a strength. The term neurodiversity, as opposed to learning disabled or other terms, it comes out of the civil rights, human rights framework. So having a neurodiversity does not make you less than, it just makes you different, just like some people are men, some people are women, some people are different races and ethnicities, some people may be tall, some people may be short. And actually, those who study business dynamics and best practices for workplaces say that it's better. Thank you, everyone, for putting those ones in the chat. They say it's better to have people on teams that are neurodiverse. So if you're trying to solve a problem or trying to create a new program, you can actually have someone who thinks outside of the box, because that person will actually help you make really good ideas or programs that other people can't necessarily see. And so just so you know about that, it is definitely a gift. A prominent person that is known to be neurodiverse is Elon Musk. And right now he is the richest man in the world. And so we want to really encourage you to see your neurodiverse child and yourself, if you're neurodiverse, as a gift and not a deficit. And so do these differences have a name? So instead of saying we're doing a workshop on autism, we're doing a workshop on attention deficit disorder or dyslexia or special education, we say neurodiversity so that it can cover all the gamut. And so some of these differences in ways of thinking, learning, interacting, and perceiving the world have been given labels such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, autism spectrum conditions, ASC, dyslexia, dyspraxia, and dyspraxia. Some of these are around just difficulties learning certain subjects. So a person could be very high IQ in one area, but dyspraxia is also known as developmental coordination disorder, DCD, and it's a common disorder that affects movement and coordination. So someone who is extremely uncoordinated, not someone like me who has 2 left feet, but someone who has coordination issues that interrupt their everyday life. And then dyspraxia is something that many of us may feel like we had in school, or dyscalculia, which is difficulty around math and numbers. So dyscalculia, which is the one, two, three, four, is the fifth word on the list. It is a learning disability that affects a person's ability to understand and use numbers. So, extreme math anxiety, difficulty with that. And then Tourette syndrome is often someone who has a neurological disorder that may cause unwanted and uncontrolled rapid and repeated movements or vocal sounds known as tics. And so again, none of these are makes a person less than. It just means they think and perceive the world differently. And so we want to remember that before we go into the signs. Now, even if you suspect that your child has a lot of the signs we're going to talk to, you have to go to your child's doctor. If they have a therapist, their teacher, a parent coordinator, you have to get an official evaluation. So I know a lot of us like to depend on Dr. Google, and that is okay for basic things. But if you think your child is exhibiting these symptoms or these signs and you haven't gotten them evaluated, please get them evaluated. If they've been evaluated a long time ago, get them re-evaluated. If you don't trust the evaluation you got from the first place, then go and get a second evaluation. But what we don't want to do is, I am not a medical professional, I am a social worker, but what we don't want to do is, none of us on this call, unless there is a doctor, and even if they're on the call as a parent, not as a doctor, none of us can diagnose your child. So it's important to use the resources we sent last month and that we'll send and put up this month to get your child evaluated. And I'm dropping the name of the math neurodiversity in the chat for Cindy. And thank you for that, Cindy and Kaya. So I want to check in really quick before we go into the nitty gritty of the signs. In the chat, or you can come off of mute and say out loud, what is one word that describes what you have learned about neurodiversity so far, whether this month or last month? So I see Kaya put talented in the chat. Thank you, Kaya. What is one word that describes what you're learning about neurodiversity?
One word, I'm coming off the mic. The one word I could say is that, and it's kind of more than one word, but the signs could be known and unknown since I've started the first workshop and now I'm doing the second one. So
thank you so much. Was that Julia Jenkins?
Juanita Mathis.
Juanita Mathis. Okay. Well, you were right in front of my face. Okay. Juanita Matthews. Thank you. The boxes move around, y'all. These boxes move around. But thank you so much, Juanita. And let's see what's in the chat. We have talented from Kaya, diverse human brain functions. Yes. And so again, we want to think about this the way we think about racial diversity, the way we think about, gender diversity. We want to just neurodiversity and these conditions, and even other conditions we can't cover tonight. They're just differences in how we think. And some people that they say in history may have had ADHD are people like Albert Einstein, Thomas Jefferson. So we want to realize that sometimes to solve the difficult problems in the world, you need people who think differently. And with that, I'm going to go to Cindy. And Cindy, come off of mute and share what you would like to share.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to share that with my daughter. I've noticed maybe optimism. I don't know if that's a thing, because since they're creative and they're always solving problems, they don't dwell. You know what I mean? Like they look for
Mhm.
another way. So I think maybe that, like being someone optimistic or like a positive thinker. I don't know.
Yeah, optimism and sometimes, a lot of empathy. So, in this world with everything going on, thank you, Cindy. Don't we need some optimistic people around us? So, your job as a parent is not to necessarily make your child like yourself or everyone else, but your job as a parent is to make your child the best person they can be. And so, I wanted to also give a disclaimer. Thank you so much, Lucas, and thank you, Zoe. We do record the virtual workshops, and then our communications team edits and puts them on the NIDC YouTube, and we have a virtual workshops playlist for those of you who want to review the information or who miss it. And so if there is a time that you want to share on audio or camera, but you don't want it recorded, let me know and we will pause the recording. You can share, then we'll go back to recording. The chat does not get posted anywhere. So whatever you put on in the chat is also private. So let's go into the first neurodiverse condition to start thinking about some of the signs. So, autism is a very common condition that parents suspect with their children. And autism is one form of neurological difference that we see on campuses and schools, although it could sometimes be combined with ADHD. Or sometimes people think a child has ADHD, but they have autism. Or they think the child has autism, but they have ADHD. I do want to say, as we learn more about childhood PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, sometimes we think a child has ADHD, but they may have childhood post-traumatic stress disorder. And that is if something traumatic happened to the child and then the symptoms of ADHD shows up, you want to make sure that when you're doing the evaluation that you share with the person evaluating your child the traumatic event that happened. But the good news is if a person is treated for ADHD or childhood post-traumatic stress disorder, the treatments will still help the person either way. But when it comes to medication, you definitely want to make sure that it's not just post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's not a just, because that's something very difficult that can impact how you think as well. But social and communication difficulties are some of the sign of autism spectrum disorders. Now, a lot of times when you hear people talk about autism, they may say, Lucas, can you re-ask your question again? I didn't understand it. A lot of times people will say he's on the spectrum, she's on the spectrum. That is kind of a slang way for saying a person has autism because it's a spectrum. Some autistic people, you honestly will not know that they have any type of autism or neurodiversity, but they will have been diagnosed and they will know, and maybe people who are extremely close to them. Other people, they may be nonverbal. They may kind of lash out. They may have some outbursts and tics that seem similar to Tourette syndrome. And this is why evaluation is so important and not making assumptions. Because, how do we know that we have ADHD? Lucas, we're going to get to that in a future slide. So if you can just hold on for a few minutes. And again, you can't use this information to diagnose yourself or anyone else. Please get an official evaluation. And in the email, you'll have resources to do that and as we go through the workshop. But autism is a spectrum. Someone I know that is under 50 and has written 5 400-page books has autism. And he's done about 3 movies on an academic topic. The person who got the top scholarship in my master's program about 2 years ago was diagnosed with ADHD. So you can't go by, oh, my child is doing well in school, they don't have any of these, because your child could be doing very well and still struggling. Autistic people have more challenges interpreting implicit social communication. So often we may prize grades, which are important, but what is going to really determine someone's success in life is often emotional IQ, social skills. And this is why so many people that are diagnosed as neurodiverse later say they wish that someone would have looked at something more than their grades. If you have hard times with social communication, that can impact your friendships, your ability to have romantic relationships. And so we don't want to boil down my child is okay, they got a 90 on the state test. We don't want to only look at that. We are holistic people. We want children that are successful, not just academically, but socially. And being socially successful doesn't mean, oh, they're the most popular in their class. It means, they know how to just, for their age, have basic conversations or basic interactions. Autism is also characterized by intensely focused or restrictive interests or behaviors. So, and Jasmine, clarify what you need help with, just so I know when we get to the Q&A. So this is called hyperfocus, and people with autism and ADHD could become hyperfocused. For children, it could be on a cartoon, it could be on a Disney character, it could be on a particular subject, like they're hyper-focused on history, but failing everything else. Now, there's good and bad with this. When someone is hyper-focused on a positive subject, or learning basketball, or learning how to do ballet, or finding a cure for cancer, you may get a genius in that area. But when someone is hyper-focused on one thing, but they neglect their hygiene, they neglect their money, they neglect, the child is not going to sleep because they're hyper-focused on playing a game. This is where the hyper-focus becomes a drawback. But if you get your child support, or if you are neurodiverse and you get support, hyper-focus can be a superpower when you really hone in on something that you want to work on, because it gives you the ability to concentrate for long periods of time. Autism, autistic people, and autistic behaviors are often profoundly misunderstood. So sometimes, especially if we come from very social cultures and very verbal cultures, we may have our children being accused of being stuck up, being accused of not being nice because maybe they're not interacting as much. And it could also be that your child is just introverted. And so this is why it's so important to respect differences, not only in how people think, but in how people interact. We don't only want to celebrate extroverts. There are gifts to being introverted as well. So some of the strengths of a person with autism spectrum disorder is they think outside of the box, usually highly intelligent. So if your child tested gifted and talented, if they tested with an off the charts IQ, that doesn't mean that they're not neurodiverse. Reliable, so once they understand the expectations, because of that hyper focus, they're going to do what you say down to the detail. Strong attention to detail, ability to maintain prolonged focus on topics of interest. Excellent long-term memory and rote memory. So rote memory is like learning your multiplication tables. And Jasmine, can you let me know what you need help with? What you referred to in the chat, thank you. And challenges of a student with autism spectrum disorder, and these challenges could also be seen as signs. They may misread social cues or facial expressions. So they may think someone is okay with talking when the person looks sad. They may think someone is mad at them when the person is just thinking. They may have stressful social interactions or stress with group work. They may do stress relieving activities, which make others uncomfortable. So that's usually like stymieing, maybe rocking back and forth. Maybe you see a lot of fidget gadgets that people are getting for kids. Fidgets make it so they can kind of do stress relieving repeated activities in a socially acceptable way. They may have sensory perceptions that interfere with learning, like seeing things too close, that are far away, or seeing things far away that are very close. They may have a nebulous sense of time, which can impact multitasking, meaning they lose track of time. This is not someone that your family came from a culture where time is not as strict as in the West, and they're a little bit late for something. This is like extreme losing track of time. So you don't want to just see this happen one time and say, my child has autism. You want to watch over a period of time, talk to their teachers, talk to their after school counselors, and then you want to, again, get your child evaluated. And then difficulty with changes or transitions. So, a lot of children need, and most children need consistency. But a child with autism, the little change may just throw them off for hours. If they're younger, they may have a tantrum. And it could be a good change, like, we're not eating at home tonight, we're going to everyone's favorite fast food restaurant. And all the other kids are happy, but if your child has autism, that may be a big throw off. So again, these are some signs, but if in doubt, again, if you have any suspicion, get your child evaluated. And let me read Jasmine's comment in the chat. And if everyone could look in the chat. Yes, so she's saying, Jasmine, thank you, Jasmine Hill. You are maybe the fourth parent that I have met who has a daughter and her ADHD shows up like this. So you have a daughter who's 13. She has inattentive ADHD, and you've been trying to get SSI and certain services for her. So that is when we go into future workshops about advocacy and future resources. If your child is diagnosed with a neurodiverse condition or a learning disability, or any Down syndrome, anything like that, they are entitled to accommodations in school all the way up to college, including master's programs and PhD programs, and they're entitled to SSI benefits because now there may be extra expenses. But Jasmine is saying the people evaluating her are like, oh, well, she's doing well in school and she's a good girl. So most women with ADHD are diagnosed late in life. And when I say late, I mean 30s and 40s, because often women with ADHD are not bouncing off the walls, and they may be getting good grades, but it will show up in other places. We don't only want to look at ADHD as a child who can't sit still. That is a part of it. But there's other parts of ADHD that have nothing to do with whether you can sit still or not. And you're saying she has severe issues outside of this that I have to really push to get help. The inattentive type is definitely a challenge. So inattentive could be you're sitting down all day, but you're daydreaming. But the teacher thinks, hey, this child is perfect. And some people are just good test takers. They can cram the night before, bust it out with a 100. And so combine that, because so much of our emphasis is on testing, we sometimes let kids slide through the cracks who test well, but they have other struggles. And every child, regardless if they have an A average or an F average, every child who's struggling deserves help. So Jasmine, I want you to check out Include NYC. And Alyssa, if you can put Include NYC's website in the chat, I'll put it in our workshop group. And I'm going to talk about Include NYC later, but Include NYC has a hotline that you can call if you're having issues getting your child correctly evaluated for any learning disability or neurodiversity. They also have booklets and workshops, and we're going to bring them in. But I want to encourage everyone, like Jasmine, you should try to call their hotline tomorrow, and we're going to put them on the screen. And then we're also going to give you their information in an email as well. But I want to get to Sophia. Yes, you are your child's greatest advocate. And so Sophia asked, what advice would you give to someone who is newly diagnosed or exploring the possibility of being neurodivergent? So some advice I would give is just like I'm saying about children, you are not less than because you might be neurodivergent. There are strengths that you have, but you need to have the proper support. Just like someone who's seeking to lose weight might have the support of a personal trainer or dietitian. Like someone else who has diabetes may have the support of their doctor. Someone else who is trying to pass their nursing exam might have the support of a tutor. Everyone needs support, but it's not a less than. It can be a great gift once you know that you are neurodiverse. Yes. And so Felicia is saying Include NYC does great work. And I would also say, Sophia, especially for adults and parents, there are a lot of podcasts and social media pages by therapists and neurodiverse professionals that give a lot of encouraging and practical information. Of course, we're going to get to the ADD, which is the same as ADHD in a moment. But look up podcasts, look up YouTube channels. Again, you don't want to take these people as they're your doctor. You definitely, if you suspect you're neurodiverse, you need to get evaluated by a therapist or counselor ASAP. But you also want to begin to look at resources that can help you navigate life. And so, Felicia, I'm going to get to your answer. And in the post-workshop email and in the monthly emails, I give resources of workshops and webinars and podcasts that deal with the issue of being ADHD. So Lucas, this is an excellent question. How can we make education flexible enough to support every brain? And Felicia, your question is great too, and I'm about to answer it. So I'm going to turn this over to the chat. I want us that are on the workshop, can we answer Lucas's question? How can we make education flexible enough to support every brain? Or how can we make education flexible enough to support every way of thinking? And while we're in the chat doing that, just for the sake of time, I'm going to go into, because this question has come twice. And after we get some replies from the chat, Lucas, I'll come back to your question. But I want you all in the chat to answer, how can we make education better for people who think differently? So about 4% of the population have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And that's also known as ADD. And ADHD affects a person's ability to focus. It can cause inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness. People with ADHD or ADD can be some of the most creative members of a team, bringing energy and new approaches to their projects. Several studies have shown that adults with ADHD tend to be out-of-the-box thinkers and calm under pressure. And then Julia put something great in the chat, Lucas. And some of the signs of, and then there are some great answers to your question in the chat. Sometimes you hear ADHD being referred to as ADD, which is attention deficit disorder, but ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is the more update term. So they're not two different terms. Also, some signs of ADHD in children could be daydreaming a lot, high energy levels, not being able to sit still, fidgeting or tapping their hands or feet, talking noisily, feeling restless or getting up and moving around when they're supposed to sit still, finding it hard to wait their turn, or interrupting in conversations. Difficulty with executive functioning, so that's difficulty starting and ending tasks, planning what tasks are important. Think of tasks that an executive would need. Being easily distracted, finding it hard to listen to what people are saying or following instructions, forgetting everyday tasks like brushing their teeth or putting on socks. This also falls under executive functioning. And so this is not once or twice because every child may forget to do something sometimes. Again, we're looking for patterns, and this is why evaluation is so important. This is Sophia. Excellent answer. Yeah, sometimes the teachers won't notice, Denise, but if you got your child evaluated and they are diagnosed with ADHD, regardless of whether the teacher notices or not, your child is supposed to be getting accommodations from the school. And so if you need help in getting those accommodations, you should speak to your parent coordinator or include NYC's hotline, which is on their website, because we all see things differently, based on who we are. We might come from a family where around the table everyone interrupts everyone to talk, and it's not seen as rude, it's not seen as over the top. So if I'm teaching a child that interrupts all the time, I may think, oh, that's nothing. We may be someone that grades are the top thing. So I'm a teacher, and it doesn't matter that that child can't sit still. They're scoring high in the 90th percentile in all their state tests. I don't even care if they can't sit still. I can work with that. So sometimes we don't notice because of who we are. But once a child has a diagnosis, it does not matter if we notice or not, we have to accommodate them. I teach on the college level, and most of my students with accommodations, I don't notice anything different about them from other students, but it's not my job to notice. It's just my job to give them the accommodations they need. So we're going to move on. Those are some, a teacher is not going to be able to diagnose. To get an official diagnosis, you definitely have to go to a medical professional or a mental health professional. And if you need help with that, again, include NYC, and their helpline can refer you, can coach you on the letters you need to write to get those accommodations, can give you templates for letters. But the symptoms I named are some of the symptoms for ADHD in children. Again, if you suspect that you or someone you know has ADHD, I definitely would talk to my doctor, talk to a mental health professional, and get an evaluation. There are even ways to be evaluated through a virtual visit. But dyslexia affects about 10% of the population. And dyslexia is a language processing difficulty that can cause reading, writing, and spelling challenges. Again, this is not just the normal challenges of learning, reading, and writing. These are extreme challenges that may last well past, first and second grade. And again, we're looking for patterns, and we want to get officially diagnosed. But dyslexia can cause challenges with processing information quickly, organization and sequencing, spoken language, and motor skills. Dyslexic people can be very good at creative thinking, problem solving, and verbal communication. About 35% of entrepreneurs, those who are business owners, are dyslexic. Maggie Adrienne Pock is one of the few African American women space scientists, and she is dyslexic. Also, the actor Tom Cruise is dyslexic and did not learn how to read until he was an adult and already famous. So some of those early films he was in, he did not know how to read. Yes, and Jasmine put an excellent comment in the chat about observing and noticing your child. I will send this video to you all just for the sake of time, because I do want to respect everyone's time, and I'm just writing this down. And so I will send this video to you about learning delays. Should I get my child tested or evaluated? And I encourage you to listen to it on your own. And some of the sources for what I have been speaking about tonight come from neurodiversityweek.com. In the UK, they have a whole week dedicated to neurodiversity. But as is being said in the chat by Jasmine, yes, Cindy, that is a good point. But as Jasmine says, it is really, really important that you pay attention to your child. because when we're trying to diagnose a person, you have to go by what is that person's normal. Meaning, if your child is just introverted, they're not going to talk as much as your extroverted child. That doesn't mean they're autistic. But what is your child's normal? Is your child someone who always has excess energy, or do you see an uptick of them not being able to sit still? There are some things where you have to observe, maybe take notes, and even when you're taking your child to be diagnosed, have the notes and present them to the doctor for a month, for 2 months. I have noticed my child is forgetting basic things. And then also, yes, big names should be advocating, and some do. Tom Cruise does a certain type of advocacy around dyslexia, and also celebrating the big and little wins. These are excellent points. To go back to Lucas's question, Lucas, I think there were many great answers to your question. How can we make education work for different types of brains? I think multisensory learning, like was shared in the chat, that means learning that incorporates audio, video, writing, photos, not just one form of learning. That helps a great deal. Also, having learning that doesn't include sitting down for 8 hours, because if we're honest, even those of us who work in offices don't usually sit down for 8 hours. If we go, we might go for a lunch break, we might stretch and talk to a coworker. It is not really natural to expect people to be sitting down for 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours if you include after school programming, tutoring. So I also think including activities where people get to move, and that will also help deal with childhood obesity. And so, Denise, I think when you're trying to explain to your aunt that your child is different, you want to, let her know your child has ADHD, and then explain to her briefly what is ADHD, and let her know that, yes, my child is neurodiverse, so they may seem restless, but they also have strengths, and this is the help that I'm getting for my child. And the resources that I will send you after the workshop will also help you know how to explain. And sometimes you don't need to explain. You can forward a podcast to someone. You can forward a website to someone. Yeah, sometimes, yes, Jasmine, excellent comment, and Denise, excellent question. Because once you know your child is neurodiverse, you should explain it to anyone you're co-raising the child with, anyone who regularly babysits the child's teachers, their after school or camp counselors. You don't have to tell your child's business everywhere, but the key people that deal with your child should know. And again, you don't have to explain everything. Sometimes sharing an article, a website, a podcast helps. So yes, Hannah, sometimes people with very high IQs forget things easily, and they call that the absent-minded professor syndrome. And so that is when you want to get your child evaluated, but with evaluation, then treatment comes. And there are ways that people who forget a lot of things easily they are taught systems so that they can remember, which is why evaluation is so important. Evaluation is not so your child will have a label. Evaluation is so your child can get the support they need. And sometimes it's because people with high IQs may be hyper focused on something they're studying, and then they forget other things, like the absent-minded professor. Some resources for support, and again, later on today or tomorrow, you will get a post-workshop email. Once a month, you will also get an email in a general family support network email. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll see resources. If you don't see those emails, please check your spam, promos, or junk folders. But Include NYC has virtual and in-person events for neurodiverse and children with learning disabilities, from babies all the way up to young adults going to college, moving out, getting jobs. They also have social activities for neurodiverse children and teens. They have manuals about how to get your child an IEP, individual education plan. Again, I plan on bringing them in, but go on their website now. They have a helpline in English and Spanish that you can call tomorrow and ask questions if your child is diagnosed and not getting the services they need, including SSI. If your child is not getting diagnosed, they will do everything down to help you write a letter to get your child diagnosed. We will be having workshops around neurodiversity every month from now until June. In April, we will be doing our 3rd annual Autism Awareness Month fair with Include NYC and other organizations and medical offices and therapists who work with autistic children and families. We will also, every email we send out via the Family Support Network will have resources around neurodiversity, whether it's a podcast, an article. And then I want to share the IEP resources. IEP is Individual Education Plan. This is the New York Department of Education IEP page. If your child is neurodiverse, if your child has a learning disability, if your child has a sickness that makes them miss school a lot, they need an IEP. And these resources can make it possible for you to get an IEP. Even if your school is not cooperating, you can speak to the teacher, speak to the parent coordinator, the administrator, but also make sure to check out these resources as well. And they really help parents advocate for IEPs for their children. Also, at the state level, there's the Help Hub for families.ny.gov. I'm going to leave that on the screen since it's so easy. It can't just be neurodivergent. Jasmine, the child has to be evaluated by a medical professional or a mental health professional or someone at the Department of Education who does evaluations, and they have to have, thank you so much, everyone. They have to have a particular diagnosis, not just neurodivergent. So if you don't take anything else away from this workshop, if you suspect that you or someone else, and this is for everyone, and thank you for this great questions, Jasmine. If you suspect that you or someone else is neurodivergent, talk to your doctor, talk to a therapist, talk to the school to get an evaluation ASAP. Call Include NYC, but it is very important that you get officially diagnosed. Neurodivergent is like an overarching category like African American. It's just, it's a civil human rights category. It's important to know what type of condition someone has. The Help Hub for families.ny.gov connects you to resources for children with multiple needs from newborns to age 22. So take this website down. They have a lot of resources. And okay, she has, so on her IEP, if she has multiple diagnoses, her neurodivergent diagnosis should be on there. And so ask the school to do another IEP with her neurodivergent condition on it, and also call the Include NYC's helpline. So then, Denise, make sure that you contact Include NYC's helpline. Go on their website, contact their helpline, and explain that to them because they help parents advocate. And trust me, they will be a great, great help. And Alyssa, if you can put the evaluation in the chat. And please, we are going to do the giveaway. Make sure to also take our feedback form because we do use these feedback forms for future workshops. And please stay on as we wrap up. Include NYC's helpline is Mondays through Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in English and Spanish. This is the contact information right in the chat. It's also on their website. So take a picture of this, write this down, and any questions you have, call them as well. And again, we will have a session with them, but that is a few months away. So start plugging in now. Thank you. And Alyssa put the Include NYC website in the chat. So I'm going to just remind everyone, if you want to be a part of the year-long virtual cohort and certificate program, Neurodiversity in Your Child, the signs, the gifts, and the resources, RSVP. Once you RSVP, you are in. If you come to 7 out of 10 of the workshops, you will receive a certificate at the end of the program, and you will receive other incentives. You can invite other parents, and if you just want to come to some of the workshops or 1 or 2, you're free to. But if you want to be in the cohort program, make sure to register and stay up to date. And in the session, we will always provide information about resources. We will also open it up for question and for group coaching. And we will have special guests from Include NYC and other nonprofit and health organizations that work with parents and children that are impacted by neurodiversity. And so our next date is November 24th and then December 22nd. And this is usually the last Monday of the month, but because of the holidays, the December one will be the next to last Monday of the month. And you can register for all the workshops at one time. And please, again, take our feedback survey. We would really, really appreciate it. And it only takes a few minutes. Thank you, Alyssa, for dropping those in the chat. She dropped the feedback survey, the Include NYC site, and also my email and the NIDC website, and how you register for the virtual series. You can also point your camera at the screen, and with the QR code, you can scan the QR code to take the feedback survey. Just so we're clear, if you have not, we will share the recording when it is on the NIDC Family Support Network virtual workshop playlist, and that will be shared in our monthly Family Support Network our monthly Family Support Network newsletters and in the post-workshop newsletters after this. It will take a few weeks for this particular workshop to be edited and put on our YouTube page, but you can always check our YouTube page and look at the FSN virtual workshops playlist for this workshop and past workshops on neurodiversity. Once you sign up for these workshops, you're on the newsletter list, and you'll be getting a special post-workshop email after. I will say, as we do the prize drawing, if you were only on here for a few minutes, you will not be eligible for the prize, even if your name was called. Yes, the website has been shared above, Jacqueline. All of that information is above, and my email is above. Thank you so much. But if you have only been on here for a few minutes, you won't be eligible for the gift card, even if your name is chosen, because it's really designed for people that were here for the majority of the workshop. So, and that's for everyone. And so I'm going to spin the wheel now, but this is our website and all of our social media information. If you are not on here when we call your name, we will call another name, and that person will win the gift card. Once I move on from your name and call a second name, no matter what happened, any technical difficulties, I'm sorry. But once I move on to the second name, regardless of what happened, I have to award it to the person with that name was called second that replied quickly. regardless of what happened. We can't give out 2 gift cards, and we can't, you know, once we call your name, like once or twice, you have to be able to come off of mute and verbally say, you know, you are here. We don't take the chat for that. And was there anyone who registered for this workshop after 4 p.m.? If so, please say yes in the chat. Jacqueline, we announced that already. The next workshop is November 24th. It's the last Monday of the month at 6 p.m. and all of that information will be in the email. You can also scroll up and hopefully you can see the information in the chat. Did anyone sign up for this workshop after 4 o'clock? Okay, so if that is the case, whoever's on the list will be on the list. And that this will be the final list as we spin the wheel. No problem, Jacqueline. No problem at all. And Alyssa, if we can drop the evaluation survey in the chat. And, oops, full screen, entire screen. Okay, can you all see the wheel? Can you all see the wheel? Julia Jenkins, you're on there. Can you all, you don't need to be able to read all the names. I can read, the name will come up clearly. Just can you see the screen with the wheel? Okay. So
Yes.
please, while we're doing this, take the feedback form that's been dropped in the chat, and I'm going to spin the wheel. I'm going to call the name once, twice, 3 times. Once we move on to the second name, that is the winner. So please, and you have to come off of mute and say that you're here. So let's go. So it's Jasmine Hill who won tonight. Are you here, Jasmine? Come off of mute. Jasmine Hill, please come off of mute, Jasmine.
Oh my God.
You won, Jasmine, and you had great participation today. Thank you so much, Jasmine, for being
I'm here,
on.
I'm here.
Thank you so
Can y'all
much
hear
for
me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
Congratulations, Jasmine.
Thank you. I won, y'all.
And put your email in the chat and I'll be sending you the gift card. It's a virtual Amazon gift card. And so congratulations and thank you because you added a great deal to the workshop with all your excellent questions and comments. And we do a giveaway at all of our workshops, whether in person or virtual. And so, yes, if you didn't win this time, you will have a chance to win. But thank you so much to everyone who was here tonight. And I appreciate your attention and your time. And thank you for all of the questions in the chat. We didn't even need to have official Q&A because you all asked the questions, you did the coaching. Thank you so, so much. Please invite a parent you know and stay tuned for the follow-up email with the resources and next month. At your local school, if your child goes to one of our sites, there will be in-person workshops on different topics, and then sometimes all site workshops that any parent can come to on totally different topics. So please also plug into those and feel free to email me. And if we can say thank you to Alyssa, who did a great job on our moderating. Thank you so much, Alyssa. Thank you everyone. And congrats, Jasmine. And we will give that to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And if you need, yes, the website displays all the services. And if anyone has any personal questions relating to this topic, you can reach out to me by email or the phone number up here. I Include NYC is great too, but if you want to call me and talk a little bit more in depth, you definitely can do that. So have a great night and have a great November. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night. Be safe.